Today I want to go over basic stances with blocks and how we actually join them both together. So, if you're ready, let's get started. The horse stance, Juchum Seogi, with the high block, Olgul Makki. Just before we begin, if you want to recap on how to do the actual stance or the block itself, I've put a link in the description below on the actual videos on how to do this. The first thing we need to do is actually take a look at the stance and the block separately. So let's do that first. The horse stance. So let's do a quick recap of the actual stance itself. So to begin with, from the closed stance, you move your left leg out 2 feet. 1, 2. So it's 2 foot width distance apart. And the feet are both parallel, facing forwards. You then bend the actual knees themselves, just like you're riding a horse. Now, from the ankle up to the knee, that part of the leg is as straight as possible, straight up. You're bending from the actual knee upwards. You have a straight back, and you're looking in the direction that you're going to be blocking. So if I'm blocking to the right, I'll be looking to the right. If I'm blocking to the left, I'm looking to the actual left itself. And with the weight, it's evenly distributed between both legs. And what you also want to do is concentrate the pressure of the knees inwards. So you can feel the tension in your legs here, and it's actually inwards. And you're tensing your stomach muscles as well. The high block. Now, when we're doing the high block, what we're doing, we are blocking on the center line. So where the wrist is, we're blocking on our center line straight down. We're blocking from the wrist down 2 inches. Also at the same time, we are 1 fist distance out from our forehead to where the block is, and we're blocking at an angle. And our opposite hand is back on the hip. We now have the stance, and we also now know the actual block itself. So what we now need to do, we actually now need to join them together. The best way to do this is when we're first learning to join the moves together in a continuous movement. It's always best to learn it to start with as a one-step move first. And then once you've learned it as a one-step move, you can then progress and go on to the continuous movement after that. Now, so what is a one-step move? Well, to begin with, you start in the actual chumbi position. And you always start with the left leg first. And you then step with the left leg into that stance and block that you're actually doing. So if we're doing the forward stance, I step into the forward stance, and if I was doing a middle block, I'd do the middle block. And then from there, then you come back into the chumbi position. Then you would then step with the right leg. So if I'm doing, as I said, the forward stance, I would step out into the forward stance. I would then do the middle block, and then from there then I would step back to the chumbi position, and then I would go to the left side again and back, and then the right side again and back. And all you're doing is continually doing the left side, right side, right side, with whatever the stance and block that you're practicing at that time. And then once you're comfortable with that actual technique, then you would then progress to the actual continuous movement of the technique. And all you're doing then is, again, you're starting in the chumbi position, and you're just then walking up the actual room itself. So we're blocking, and in the stance, and this time maybe it's a low block, but then you're coming forwards, and you're just continually moving forwards with the actual block itself. And all you then do is you walk up and down the room to get used to the actual technique itself. So let's start by learning the stance and the block together. The one step with the horse stance and the high block. To start with, we start in the chumbi position. And we're going to start by stepping with the left leg first, and we step out with the left leg into the actual stance and the block at the same time. Now, from there then you pause for a second, check the stance and check the block that you're doing it correctly, and then we step back into the chumbi position. Now this time we're going to do the actual right side. We're stepping with the block and the stance at the same time. And again, you pause for a second, check the stance, check the block is correct, and then we move back into the chumbi position. And then we go and do the left side. And we step into the chumbi position. And then you do the right side. And then you continue to do the left, right, left, right, left, right, until you get comfortable with joining together the actual block and the stance together. Now, once you're comfortable in joining the stance and the block together, the next part is then you need to then add in the Ki Hap, because it's the Ki Hap that really gives you the power, where everything is strong and tense, and this is what finishes off the actual block itself and makes it work. Because if you're unfortunately ever in a situation where you had to use it and you were being attacked, by adding in that Ki Hap, that just really makes that block work to help stop or deflect that attack coming towards you. Now we need to go on to the continuous technique. As before, we start in the chumbi position, and we're going to start by moving the left leg first, and we start with the actual block and the stance together. Now, once we've done the move, pause for a second, check the stance, check the block, make sure you're doing it correctly. And then this time we're going to step with the right leg, but we're stepping forwards. And again, pause for a second, check the stance, check the block, and then move forward this time with the left leg. And then the right leg. And all you're doing is continue moving up and down the room. And the reason why we're doing that is so that we get used to joining together the actual block and the stance together until it becomes and feels natural to you. Then from there then, once we've done that, we then need to make sure we add in the Ki Hap. And that is a horse stance with the high block. Now, once you've got to the end of the mat, or if you're practicing at home, maybe in your room, what you then need to do, you need to turn around and go back the other way. So how do you do that? Well, I've made a video on how you learn and practice it, and I've put a link in the description below so you can go and check it out. Now, below in this bottom left hand corner, or maybe somewhere in the top, is the next video on stances and blocks. So you can go and learn and keep practicing them for yourself. As always, until the next time, Gam Sa Hae Ni. What are the stances and blocks used for? With the stances, it is to do with the actual distance from you and your attacker. So the stance you use depends upon this distance. With the walking stance, it is for more closer, short distances to the attacker. With the forward stance, you use the forward stance when the distance is slightly longer away from the actual attacker itself. And with the back stance, again, this is more closer to you. So if the attack's closer to you, you would use the back stance as a shorter distance attack. And with the horse stance, this can be used whether that distance is slightly longer or shorter to the attacker, and it is also used when the attack is coming from the side, not to the front, to the actual side itself, because the horse stance is very strong on the side, not as much to the actual front or the back. Now with the blocks themselves, the block you're going to use will depend upon an actual attack and how it's coming towards you. For example, the low block is for anything from the waist downwards. So if anything is coming towards you from the waist downwards, you would use the low block. With the middle block is used from the waist up to the shoulder. So if there's an attack coming within this area here, you would then utilize the actual middle block. And then finally, with the actual high block, if you have any attack or if something is coming down on you from the shoulder up to the head, this area here, this is the area you would utilize and use the high block for. So the stance and the block you use will depend upon the actual situation that you find yourself in, and depends on what's actually happening at that exact moment. And it's then for you to decide which stance and block to use accordingly to help stop or deflect that attack or that object coming towards you. Now the other thing I must add in at this point is when you're actually doing the movement, is you must always remember to add in that Ki Hap, because it's a Ki Hap that will give you that extra strength and power when you're doing the stance and the block to help really stop or deflect that attack coming towards you.